Moderna announced yesterday it has submitted data recommending a third booster shot at least 8 months after the second dose, joining Pfizer and also recommending a third shot. I'm joined now by Dr. Paul Offit, director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and a member of the FDA Advisory Committee on Vaccines. Dr. Offit, thanks so much for taking the time.
Sure.
All right, so the FDA has scheduled an advisory committee meeting for later this month on COVID booster shots. What are you looking for to make the case whether or not boosters should be recommended more broadly?
Right, so the Biden administration has declared that there should be a booster dose roughly 8 months later after the second dose for the general population. But we are going to look at that on September 17th in the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. And what we're looking at is this vaccine not doing what it's supposed to do? What it's supposed to do is it's supposed to protect against severe critical illness. And to date, all the data that have been presented by the CDC have shown that it's done exactly that. So if the companies or the FDA can make a case that there has been an erosion in protection against severe critical disease and that erosion in protection against severe disease would be mediated or eliminated by a third dose, then we could move forward. But to date, we really need to see those data to be able to make that decision.
Well, some critics have said that the White House and the top health officials have gotten really ahead of that and the booster shots when they should be recommended. Do you think the Biden administration has gone too quickly here, or you think they're right on point?
Right, so the best way to do this is first to identify a problem. In this case, the problem would be that there would be an erosion in protection against serious illness. Then you have a solution to the problem, which is that if you give a third dose, and there would be studies that show this, that you can bump up that protection against severe illness. And then the FDA would then consider whether that could be then a 3-dose recommendation. And then the CDC would make that decision about whether or not which groups, or in all groups in the general population, should get it. But remember, protection against severe disease is mediated by immunological memory, so-called memory B cells, memory T cells, which tend to be long-lived and, frankly, not boostable. So we'll see whether or not the data that are presented to the FDA and then the CDC are compelling.
As you've said, vaccines are still very effective at keeping people out of the hospital. But we heard from the CDC earlier this week that there are signs of vaccine losing some effectiveness, particularly with older people. So how should the average American look at that data? Are they still safe? The elderly in our society as the shots wane?
Well, again, still, protection against severe disease does appear to still be holding up. There is a waning of immunity and protection against asymptomatic infection or mildly symptomatic infection associated with the waning in neutralizing antibodies in the circulation. But that would be expected. I mean, what you really hope for with this vaccine is that it can keep you out of the hospital, out of the ICU, and out of the morgue. And there doesn't appear to be a significant waning of immunity there. But again, we'll see what data are presented to the FDA Advisory Committee on September 17th.
I know you are still concerned, like so many, about getting more vaccines out to the unvaccinated, but what about breakthrough cases being able to spread the virus? Does that pose a risk to the unvaccinated and give a reason for booster shots to help stop the spread or help keep new variants from developing?
Right, that's a great question. I think the term breakthrough is misused. I think breakthrough should be reserved for those who, despite being fully immunized, are nonetheless hospitalized. I think if we're expecting this vaccine to protect against mild illness or asymptomatic infection, we've set way too high of a bar. But the question that you're asking is a critical one. If by eliminating those people who are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatically infected by giving a third dose, wouldn't that dramatically reduce then the contagiousness of this virus? I'm not so sure that's true. I mean, if you look at countries that have high immunization rates, or you look at states in the United States that have high immunization rates, with a 2-dose vaccine, it appears that 2 doses appears to be enough to be able to control this infection. But again, I think the critical issue here is not going to be boosting the vaccinated. I think if we really want to get on top of this pandemic, it's going to be about vaccinating the unvaccinated.
Okay, so while we have you here, let's talk about children as well. Pfizer says it plans to submit data at the end of September for trials on children under the age of 12, which so many people have been waiting for. What in particular will you be looking for to determine whether those vaccines for young people can go forward? And what do you see as a realistic timeline for younger people being able to get that vaccine?
Right. So what we look at the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee is to make sure, number one, that the vaccine is safe, that we have enough data on children that make us comfortable that that's true. And then also that the vaccine is clearly effective in those age groups, that they have the right dose, that they've done the right dosing studies. And I think once that's in hand, then we would feel comfortable recommending to the FDA that this vaccine could be used in children in that age.
As we see the rising cases and hospitalizations among young children, I think it was over 200,000 in 1 week. Should parents, I'm a dad, I'm sending my kids back to school. How concerned should parents be about in-person learning that is starting again in many cases, and as we head into the colder months, the fall and the winter?
Right. I mean, it's a confluence of several worrisome events. You have a Delta variant, which is clearly more transmissible. You're heading into the winter months where this virus is also more transmissible as it's transmitted more easily in cooler, drier climates. And you have a fully susceptible population in children less than 12 and a largely under-vaccinated population in those between 12 and 17. In communities where spread is high, I think that's really worrisome. The only chance you have then in young children who can't otherwise get a vaccine is to make sure everybody's masked, to make sure all the teachers are vaccinated, and that has to happen. And I do worry that in some parts of the country there seems to be pushback against that, essentially tying people's hands behind their back with the only weapons that they really have for young children where they can't be vaccinated.
Right. The goal to keep everybody safe as best we can. Dr. Paul Offit, member of the FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee, among other things. Thanks so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.